Hey guys, we have a transformative week full of planetary transits. We have a lot going on. Mercury is going retrograde in Gemini, Jupiter is going into Aries, and we have a total lunar eclipse in Scorpio. So this week is going to really feel like there's a huge shift. Obviously, I will do a separate video podcast for the eclipse. But the interesting thing about this week is a lot of the alignments are clumped up into the same day. So the 10th has 3 alignments, the 15th has like 5, counting that lunar eclipse. So there is a lot going on, and it's a lot of concentrated energy this week. And looking at the vibes on the graph, there is an interesting mix of energies. At the start of the week, there is a spike of solitude energy, and it's mixed in with motivation. It's mixed in with social vibes, which is always odd when, those energies contradict, but that's just kind of what happens because we have a variety of alignments going on. There's also a smidge of good luck energy that's going on in the beginning of the week too. A lot of that has to do with the Jupiter stuff. I would say that, all this mixed alignment has to do with the Mercury retrograde starting off and, one other alignment that's going on around that point in time. Throughout the week, we do have some social vibes that are going on. There's a main social vibe that's going on from the 9th until the 12th, and there's also this family and friends element that's going on when it comes down to socializing all the way up till the 14th. So it is an interesting week with all of these elements. The weekend, there's definitely some solitude energy popping up. There is some psychic vibes and there is some mental energy that's popping up. So this is going to be a lot of contemplation. I mean, we have that eclipse, and like I was saying before, the 15th is a jam-packed day full of alignments. So this is going to be interesting in terms of just trying to figure out exactly where we're headed, where we're going, and really needing some space to ourselves. Even with some of that social energy that's intersecting it with the family and friends social energy, we're still going to need that time to just take some space for ourselves to figure out where we're headed and where we're going. So this is going to be a colorful and transformative week for sure. Let's look at the next bunch of days and see what we can expect. As a reminder, don't forget to like and subscribe and also share because it does help this channel grow. Also, if you'd like to support the hard work of this channel, you can do so by buying me a fresh cup of coffee. There's a link in the description box below. So Tuesday is a huge day of planetary events happening. Mercury is going retrograde and Jupiter is going into Aries. Let's get Mercury retrograde out the way. Mercury went into shadow on April 26th, and it went into shadow at 26 degrees of Taurus. And of course, it is going into Gemini, and it is now hitting that retrograde point at 4 degrees of Gemini. So we have a mixed retrograde. We have air elements that we're going to be dealing with, obviously, in Gemini, and then we have the earth elements that we're going to be dealing with in Taurus. But think back to what was going on with you these last few weeks since the 26th and since Mercury went into Gemini on April 29th. What kind of retrograde themes were going on with you? For the Taurus portion, were you experiencing Taurian themes? Have issues about your confidence came up, issues regarding self-worth, issues regarding what you value in life and what's really important to you, what you need to be stable, what you need to feel mentally solid. Have there been communication issues when it comes down to possessions and money? Has there been communication issues when it came down to your relationships, whether they're romantic or close relationships with other people, friends, family, and things like that? Because those things can come up within this Taurus energy. And this could be a time where you're looking at where you can become more stable, where you can find reliability. Has there been an issue with reliability with the people in your life? Because these could be some of the themes that you're experiencing in the Taurus portion, which happened from April 26th to the 29th. The Gemini portion is a little bit longer than the Taurus portion. We've experienced that since the 29th all the way up till now, the 10th, and it's going to backtrack and head into Taurus. But what type of Gemini themes were popping up since the 29th of April all the way up until right now? Has there been issues with miscommunication and gossip and hearsay? Because a lot of the times within Gemini energy, those things can come up. So there could be a situation that needs to be clarified because it's been either mishandled or miscommunicated or is coming up in the form of gossip. Has there been any situations in regards to flaky behavior, inconsistent behavior? In other words, flakiness within your relationships, not showing up when you need to, not communicating when you need to, a lot of ghosting situations, or just feeling as though people just aren't available to you when you need them. When you're communicating with people, it's a little bit surface level or could at times seem somewhat phony. So this could be another issue with communication that's coming up. Has there been issues with immediate relatives? Gemini rules our sibling relationships, so our brothers and our sisters. It could also be other immediate relatives like aunts and uncles and cousins and things like that. Rarely parents pop up within this energy. I'm not saying that it can't, but I mean, if you have a parent that's more like a brother or sister, which some people do, maybe there could have been some communication issues with that, and this could be a time where you're resolving this. But specifically with your siblings, this could be a time where you're resolving those relationships or have been going back and forth with siblings and need to reach some sort of agreement or make peace with each other or meet each other halfway or just something along those lines. This can also be an issue with documents and reading the fine details. If there's been an issue going back and forth with that, where you've been working with a document for the last few weeks, it doesn't seem like things are getting done or something is just misconstrued about it. This could be an issue that comes up with that. This could also bring up issues when it comes down to the facts or needing to check the facts due to misinformation or something being skewed in some sort of way. So that's another thing that can come up. And also too, our relationship to our environment. Gemini rules our local environment. So this could bring up issues within that. Are we comfortable within our environment? Are we liking our local scene in our local area? Or is it time to move forward and find a local scene that we fit into? So maybe we're having to get clear about those types of things in our lives so that way we aren't settling and putting ourselves in a place where we're just uncomfortable where we're at. Mercury will go direct on June 2nd, and it will leave the post-shadow retrograde on June 18th. And by that point in time, we'll really get a chance to enjoy the Gemini energy thoroughly. It's not to say that this hasn't been enjoyable, but having Mercury in its home sign is really nice. And so at least when the shadow clears, we'll really be able to appreciate this Gemini energy. I have a full article about what to expect anytime Mercury is in retrograde and about this particular retrograde. So I will put those in the link in the description box below. So if you needed the wind pumped back into your sails, Jupiter is going into Aries, and it is going to really help us blaze a trail. Jupiter going into Aries is going to make everything bigger and badder when it comes down to being action-oriented, because Aries is an action-oriented sign. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, which is also another action-oriented sign that's always aiming its arrow at any opportunity it can land. Is a combination that's filled with unbridled motivation and enthusiasm and a bigger, badder, bolder vibe all together with this combination. And this right here is a good moment for Jupiter, because the last time Jupiter was in a fire sign was when Jupiter was in its home sign of Sagittarius, and that was around November 8th of 2018, and it lasted until December 1st of 2019. But this was the last time Jupiter was in a fire sign, was December 1st of 2019. That was the last day. So now Jupiter is all revved up within this fire placement. And even though it was in exaltation with being in Pisces, being in a fire sign is definitely great for getting Jupiter to be active and getting out there and taking adventure and seizing the day, which is something this planet enjoys doing. So what this is going to do is it's going to pump us up to start looking at how we can start a new path and blaze a new trail within our lives. Find something meaningful, find some sort of new journey that revs us up, that reignites our passion, kickstart a way to expand on our opportunities, be more open and confident in shooting our shot when it comes down to goals and desires and opportunities and aspirations that we have. Also too, it's just a good energy for just getting happy and thinking of all the thrilling possibilities for our lives. So we'll feel like shaking off the things that have held us back for a while. We'll feel more ambitious when it comes down to whatever it is that we're trying to seek out in our lives. This could be a time where we're taking a pioneering approach to the way we seek knowledge. In other words, we find ourselves embarking on this new journey where we're just in a learning fest. We're trying to learn new topics that we've always had an interest in and just didn't have the motivation or stamina to do. This could be a time where we're actually going after it. We're ready to initiate something that we've wanted to do for a while. This could also be about introducing ourselves to a new way of learning things. If we've been using the same method over and over again to absorb materials or data, this could be a time where we're finding a new way to absorb knowledge. And with Jupiter being knowledge hungry and Aries being really fast moving, this could be one of those combinations where we're absorbing things really fast as a result of it. We can also find ourselves being really comfortable with our own perspective, meaning sometimes we need permission to enjoy something, like something, or have a viewpoint viewpoint on something. Not all the time, but there are times where people, they either don't express their viewpoints or basically take on other people's viewpoints so that way they can fit in. And this could be a time where, you're just like, I want to have my own unique perspective on something. If I have something to bring to the table and it's different from other people, I'm going to speak my truth. I'm going to talk about my own outlook when it comes down to things, which in a lot of the ways can be refreshing at times. Sometimes people are open to other people's opinions. And, in this energy, sometimes that could be a slippery slope because there is a lower vibration that goes with this. But a lot of times this could be one of those things where people are hearing your perspective and having an open mind, because one of the other good things with this transit is it is great for having an open mind, being open-minded to other ideas and other people's philosophies, which again has to be balanced because it can get dicey on this and it can get one-sided. But for the most part, the higher vibration of this is really amazing for seeing other people's perspectives. This could be a time where you're feeling more adventurous and you're needing to travel, or you're needing to do something more thrilling and exciting, so you can be more open to something you normally wouldn't try that seems risky and daring and bold, and more or less just because you're just ready to try something new and let your hair down. And it doesn't have to be something high octane, even though with this energy we kind of want high octane stuff, but this can be travel. And if you're not literally traveling, this could be literal journeys of the mind through books, or with this being an Aries, something action oriented. So this could be even losing yourself in a good action movie, or taking a meditative run or jog, just being active. Because again, we're going to be all about being active, which could lead to a fitness journey. It could lead to a journey of just getting up and moving and living a more active lifestyle if it's not about working out. So it's many types of journeys within this energy, and it is definitely all about being active and doing something that doesn't allow you to be a passenger in your own life. This can definitely be one of those energies when it comes to dating, because we are combining Aries energy, which has a lot to do with our sexuality and relationships and dating, and mostly the sexual energy. But this could be a take no prisoners sort of attitude within relationships. There is definitely going to be a need to be pursuitful, and with Venus being in Aries, it's definitely going to rev that up. With Jupiter being here, Venus and Jupiter have been close together already due to the conjunction it's making. Jupiter won't catch Venus because Venus is fast moving. Venus is not in a place where it's moving slower like it was in the beginning of the year due to the retrograde. So their conjunction is over, but Venus still being in Aries and about 10 degrees away, less than 10 degrees away from Jupiter, about 9 degrees, it could rev up some of that relationship stuff and give us the opportunity to just be confident and seize the moment when it comes down to our love life. And again, this is going to be a very social energy. We are definitely going to need an outlet to just get together with people, get together with our friends, just have the need to mingle and party. This is definitely party vibes. This is absolute party vibes in this energy. So this is going to be a fun time within this, even though we do have the lower vibration within this energy, as we do anytime there is a sign placement within a planet. And of course, because Jupiter inflates things, this can inflate some Aries things, and this can inflate things in terms of our temper. There could be a tendency to be more temperamental than normal and blow out a lot of hot air, or have a hair trigger that's kind of explosive at times. So we really want to be mindful of our tempers. And within Aries energy mixed in with Jupiter, we have this tendency to be very direct with those two energies. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, which is a very direct sign. Aries is a very direct sign, especially depending on the combination. And so when you combine this together, this could be extra blunt for no reason. And extra blunt for no reason is not always good. I mean, there is some good parts to this where obviously being direct is great, and that is one of the higher vibrations, but this could also expand the need to be too direct. And so that could hurt other people's feelings, which is not cool. So it could be hard in that sort of way, which also can be, a bit of a pushy energy as well. This could be kind of a steamrolling energy where, people tend to be more bossier than normal or need to have control in situations. This could also inflate certain things when it comes down to being sensitive to people who don't agree with us on certain things. So whether that could be opinions and beliefs and things like that, this could also bring out that sort of energy where people this is where I was saying this energy is open to listening to other people, but at the same time, sometimes it could be a situation where it can get extra sensitive and just people just aren't open to people who disagree with them or get really opinionated about what they think and feel or beliefs. And mixed in Jupiter and Aries, this could be fighting for what you believe in, good, bad, or indifferent. So that's great when we have the fighting for what you believe in when it comes down to what's important. And so we might be able to see a lot of that on a collective level where people are fighting for what they believe in for their fellow man in a healthy way, but then there could also be some of that in an unhealthy way. So we need to just make sure we're staying a keeping a fine balance when it comes down to Jupiter and Aries. Other than that, find a healthy outlet in this Jupiter, because there's a very healthy Jupiter to kickstart something in your life that you've been wanting to go after in a big way. And so use this to your advantage and soak this fun, exuberant energy up. That same day on the 10th, Venus will be forming a semi-square with Saturn. And so with this energy, even though that day is just a mixed bag day, with the Jupiter stuff, it's so enthusiastic and so jolly. However, with this alignment and the Mercury retrograde, it could make things feel uncomfortable, because this energy in itself can be pretty cold. It could be very sobering. It could be having a realistic moment when it comes down to relationships, getting real with yourself when it comes down to relationships. So this could be a thing where you're kind of coming to a place where you're realizing you may not be into someone like you thought you were, or the relationship itself is just cold and you're finding yourself just not enjoying yourself in the relationship. The love is kind of just drying up within that relationship. This could also be just feeling disenchanted when it comes down to career, money, and just how you're earning your money. And it can make you question, what your next steps are, which is not a bad thing, because when these alignments come up, they are there to help us question what we need to make changes to, so that way we can have satisfaction in our lives. Obviously, these are not overnight changes, but make sure you're not doing anything erratic because of this, because this type of energy combined with the Mercury retrograde and Jupiter going into Aries could cause us to feel kind of explosive and just wanting to bust free and break out of the situations that we're in without having some sort of solid foundation to ourselves or some sort of backup plan. So do the best you can when this energy hit. And speaking of things happening unexpectedly and without any stable ground, Jupiter is going to be in a semi-square with Uranus. This semi-square between these planets hasn't happened since May 7th of 2012, and it's been a long while. It's been 10 years or so since this alignment has happened, and almost to the date with it being May this year. Now, this energy has its fun elements to it, and again, this is going to be a week that's going to have that sort of fun tone, even with some of the stuff going on. However, with this, you want to make sure you're not taking huge risk with this energy, even with Jupiter being in Aries, and especially with Jupiter being in Aries and it's connecting with this semi-square with Uranus. You want to make sure that you're making appropriate risk, and you want to make sure that whatever you do isn't going to leave you in a bad position, because this can bring about sudden luck. However, the luck could be subject to change with this being a harder alignment. So you want to make sure that you're not doing anything that might put you in an awkward position when it comes down to your finances or anything else that you have set up for yourself. So even if you feel lucky and you feel this wave of anything can happen and it feels good wash over you, you might want to wait this one out. Maybe wait for the week to be over. Jupiter is going to be in Aries for a while. It's going to be in Aries for months throughout the summer until it retrogrades back into Pisces, the last few degrees of Pisces. But for right now, with the energy like this, definitely make sure you're not taking risks that might cause some sort of upheaval in your life. By the time we get to the 15th, which is another congested day, we have the lunar eclipse, which I will be making a separate video for. And we have Venus in a conjunction with Chiron. So with this conjunction, it could bring up past disappointment in relationships. It could call to our attention where we need to repair our self-image, our self-esteem, our self-worth, what we value in a partner, how we value ourselves, fears of rejection, healthy coping mechanisms. And this could be just due to poor self-image that happens, and unfortunately that happens to a lot of people just due to things that have happened to them in their lives with relationships and other stuff. So when this comes up, it's calling to your attention to know that you deserve better, that this is a time to work on your coping mechanisms. This is a time to work on self-esteem, maybe just finding ways to improve your self-esteem through taking courses or speaking with a coach, reading books that are great for building up self-esteem, and realizing that you're worthy of better when it comes down to relationships and love, and not making sacrifices that put you in a bad position or come at a cost to you. So do your best to heal these areas and look at ways and methods so you can build yourself back up when it comes down to that. And with this being a mixed bag day, there's a couple of alignments still that are uncomfortable. The sun's going to make a square with Saturn, which could cause us to feel not as confident as we'd like. An alignment like this could make us feel lonely and gloomy, and it does bring in feelings of just wanting to be by yourself as well. It's not necessarily always just feeling lonely, but it just has this tone to wanting to have some space to yourself, just not wanting to be around people because you're not in a good mood, and just feeling like your confidence is just kind of zapped. And even with some of the stuff that was going on the previous days and Jupiter being in Aries, sometimes these harder Saturn alignments definitely peek through and they hit pretty hard. And with this one, it could feel as though, you're not being seen for who you are, the hard work you put in, your originality, just who you are overall as a person. And so this could definitely be a day where you're feeling down about that. And I will say, when you have hard Sun-Saturn aspects or hard Saturn aspects, a lot of the times, it is a bad feeling. It isn't a good feeling. You feel like you've hit a wall. You feel like you've hit some limits. But the good thing is, with Saturn, there definitely comes reward. So even with this, at some point, there is light at the end of the tunnel. And the hard work you're doing will be recognized at some point. Which doesn't take away from the feelings of an alignment like this, because that's always the worst feeling in the world, when you're feeling like you're not getting ahead and it's really just taking a toll on your self-esteem. So do the best you can to pump yourself up, give yourself a pep talk, research alternatives for working through whatever limitations these may be, and do as much self-care as possible, because that's going to be needed with this type of energy. And interestingly, the sun is going to sextile Neptune that day, which is a completely different vibe, and hopefully it mitigates some of this harder stuff that's going on this day. This is definitely a hefty day energetically, but with the sun Neptune, it does bring in an enthusiasm. It definitely brings in this bright, sunny, spiritual sort of vibe. It helps us feel more optimistic than normal. So in a lot of ways, it contradicts some of the other stuff, but a lot of times when we have these mix of alignments, we end up having a mix of easy and the mix of hard stuff. So with this, it may help in terms of giving you a pick-me-up and by listening to your favorite tunes, doing something spiritual, doing some journaling and stuff like that. But I will say, because there's an eclipse this day, probably not the journaling. Try to watch the meditation. Do not manifest on this day. This is an eclipse day, and I've said that in my videos before, but really, truly, if this was a normal day, I would say, do a lot of those things in terms of meditating and journaling. But with this alignment, I would just say, just enjoy some music. And if you're able to, go out to a concert or check out some live music in your area, lose yourself in a book or a cool documentary about spirituality, or even just doing some art. And hopefully all of that will be therapeutic. And the last alignment that's going on that day is Venus making a semisextile with Uranus, which is also an uncomfortable energy, because it is one of those things where if there's any restrictions in relationships, there could be a bit of upheaval. So there's a lot of relationship stuff in the air where, there could be some sudden changes and swift moves made. It is a very self-destructive sort of energy too. If you're feeling bored, you can just kind of just abruptly do stuff, abruptly end things. This could be with relationships and job. So you just want to make sure that you're being as balanced as possible and you're not making any sudden moves before you know exactly what your game plan is, because otherwise, when this transit kind of just dissipates, you may end up feeling as though it was a big mistake. So try to stay as grounded as possible this week, because there's a lot going on, and even though there's a bunch of gaps within this week, there's a high concentration of energies on specific days, and with that high concentration, we can feel extra pressure, sometimes good, sometimes indifferent, and sometimes uncomfortable. So anyway, I hope you all have the best week ever. Later, guys.